All right. Walking with God. What greater privilege could we have than to be people who are actually connected with the architect of everything we know and to have him interact with us, to live our life with him? And that's um, what I believe the Bible is referring to when it often uses this language of walking with God. And this is the third video in this group of videos I'm doing on this subject. And I'm doing it, as I've said, both for other people but also for myself. I notice in my life, and I'll be honest with you, that I have seasons and days where my walk with God is very close, and seasons and days where it's not as close as it should be. And I feel a huge difference between the two. And I love walking with God. I love it's like all the lights turn on. There's a richness and a depth to everything. And I want to learn to more faithfully walk with God. And I hope that a lot of you guys are in the same place. The first video we did was talking about what happens when we walk with God. And I was just trying to lay out some things to show the value of the difference of walking with God or not. And you can check that out on your own time. The second one, we talked about the number one rule of walking with God. It's the number one rule in any relationship, and that is trust or faith. Any relationship without trust or faith is not really much of a relationship at all. And we love this saying as Christians that Christianity isn't a religion, it's a relationship, and that's so true. And that means we need to, when we try to figure out how to do the Christian life, we shouldn't be thinking about how to do a religion. We should be thinking about how relationships work. And that's why trust is the first thing you have to think about. Today I want to talk about another part of relationships, and that is time and priority. That all relationships take time and priority, and that's one of the um, key factors in how healthy any relationship is. Now, we all have different lives. We all have different obligations. You know, some of us have jobs and school and kids or all of the above, and problems we're dealing with, and these things. And um, a lot of those things we can't do anything about. Where that time is spent, we have to have jobs, we have to take care of children, we have to do these things. But the question becomes, when we have extra time, extra energy, what is the priority of our life? What do we invest that time in? And Jesus said in Matthew 13, he told this story about people hearing the message and responding differently. And it was this picture of seeds going in the ground and growing and seeing how they did. And one of them gets planted and it grows good, but it has these thorns that choke it out. And Jesus said that those thorns in that story represent the cares of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth. That there's something, and I've watched it amongst, people as I've grown older, that you go on, life gets busy, you have cares of this life, and the deceitfulness of wealth. Oh, I need to make money, and it's going to help smooth everything out if I can, just make a little more, and on it goes. And after a while, you see that this relationship they had started out with God begins to just push back, and they might still say, "Oh yeah, I'm a Christian. I follow God and believe in Jesus and go to church, say the right things," but that walking with God has fallen off. It's starting to get choked out by these things. And I certainly have felt the warning of that in my life many times. And it shows that priority has to be there. This priority of, yes, there are cares of this life. And yes, there are, I need to think about money to some degree. But when I have to chase those things so much that I push away things that give me time to actually connect with God, I my spiritual life is bound to start getting choked out. And Jesus himself, super busy in his public ministry years. He had just people crowding him all the time, and um, needy people that he actually had the ability to help. Everyone he prayed for was healed. But you still read over and over. I put a few of the references if you want to look them up. Mark 1:35, Mark 6:45 and 46, Luke 4:42, Luke 5:16, Luke 6:12. These are passages where it says that, early in the morning they can't find Jesus. Where'd he go? Well, he's off praying. Or he tells his disciples, hey, go out on the boat and I'll meet you later. And he goes up on a mountain by himself to pray. And it says in Luke 5:16 that he would often slip away to the wilderness and pray. And, the Bible says to pray without ceasing. And a lot of times we say, yeah, I don't need a prayer time because I'm going to talk to God in my mind all day. And you should. And that's rich. But for Jesus, that didn't erase the need to just be alone with his Father all the time. And if he's our example, certainly, how do we think we're going to walk with God if we make no time to be alone with our Father? And, it always humbles me to think how much I think I can do the Christian life without prayer when Jesus, the Son of God, couldn't do it without prayer. So I guess obviously we're starting to ask ourselves, when I have time, there's things I have to do, but when I don't have to be doing things, where am I going to go? Am I going to go to entertain myself? Am I going to go to, try to get some refreshment off friends? Am I going to go to whatever? And most of those things aren't going to be bad things, hopefully. But again, religion may be just about good and bad, but relationship isn't just about am I doing good and bad things. It's about, do we have any time to connect? Is it a priority to take time to connect? And those of you who are married feel that. I feel that in our marriage, and my wife and I, feel that sometimes we're around each other, we're taking care of kids, and we're still talking to each other. Can you do that? Can you do this? Hey, yeah, did you hear about this? Blah, blah, blah. But there's none of that calm our mind and be together and share our heart. Relationships need that. And do you have that? And if not, it may tell you part of why you don't feel a sense of intimacy with God. Jeremiah 29:13 says, you will seek me, this is God talking, you will seek me and find me when you seek with all your heart. And again, it always helps to kind of do the verses backwards. Part of what that's communicating is if you don't seek with all your heart, you're probably not going to find him. He doesn't say if you just, try to build me into your life just a little bit, then you're going to find me. No, he says when you seek me with all your heart, that's when you'll find me. And he's saying, I want you all in this relationship. I want to be the dominant thing in your life that you are trying to connect with, that you're living for. Are we like that? And again, like I say, I feel the up and down. I can certainly tell you my heart wants to be there all the time. But I get distracted and I get caught up in things that are usually good things, but they kill the best thing of thriving with God in relationship. Here's some questions to ask yourself when you start thinking, well, yeah, is God a high priority in my life? And one obvious one, like we're saying, is what are you doing when you have free moments of time? I often think of this even as throughout my workday. I have little moments of dead space, and it's my habit now to pull out my phone, check the news, check messages, and I think, how many of those pauses do I just stop and start talking to the Lord about what's on my mind, and take the opportunity to connect instead of go to something else. And again, when we have free time, do we say, oh, how can I blow an evening in entertainment. And it's not that that's wrong every now and then, but are you ever like, I just want to get alone with God. I want to talk to Him. I want to read the Word. I want to sing some songs to Him. I want to do this. Um, Also, what do most of your conversations naturally flow towards? And what I mean by that is, if you talk to anyone long enough, you talk about whatever you talk about, but eventually you get down to what's on the person's mind. Maybe it's something they're trying to achieve, something they're trying to get, something they're, um, yeah, whatever. You get after you talk to people what's burning in them, what's on their mind, and for you, does that tend to be God and your relationship with Him and what He's showing you? And do you find that all your conversations kind of end up there? That's what you want to share. That'll tell you a lot where your heart is. Also, what things are least and most movable on your schedule? And again, I get convicted just saying it. So many times it's like, oh, I want to have some prayer time tonight, but this little thing I want to do or fix or whatever, and then I just say, I'll pray later, and I move it. And in that moment, I definitely treat uh, my connecting time with God as a lower priority as this other thing usually that isn't nearly as important. You also see, a big part of connecting with God is being with His people. And, I see a movement today. People are getting sick of fake church, which I think they should get sick of fake church. But it's also, I see a lot of people just kind of tuning out, and it's not a high priority to be with people who follow Jesus. And I'll just tell you again, you're not going to thrive in your relationship with God if that's not a priority to you to connect with God's people. Um, so again, I'm not saying this to condemn. Hopefully, you hear me talking about my failures. And again, uh, religion says you're not doing good enough and you should do better, and it's kind of half true, right? But relationship says, like any relationship, oh, I do want to be close to you, God. I do. I don't want to be distracted, and I truly don't. I mean, I get distracted and deceived by giving my attention to things, and then later I'm like, oh, idiot. Why did I do that? I have so much more joy and rest and see God moving when I'm giving the priority of my heart and my time to Him. So if you want to walk with God, it's going to take time, and um, it's going to make a huge difference if you learn to do that. Now, I know some people, probably most of us, a lot of times when you go to pray, you sit down and you don't know what to do, and you're just kind of like, I want to see God, but it all feels super new, and you think, I don't even know how to do this. And that's a great place to start with God, is to just tell Him, I don't know how to do this, but I want to learn how to spend time alone with you. But I will also, hopefully very soon, never know how long it'll take till the next video, but I'm really hoping maybe later this week to do a really practical video on some practical things when you get alone with God, to just um, get yourself to be more real with God, because that's the issue. It's not about doing the right things. It's almost this battle of just detoxing ourselves from all these other pressures and actually being real with God, to talk to Him and then to seek Him and hear what He might want to show us. So I hope that's helpful in some way. Again, walking with God requires trust, and walking with God requires priority and time. And I will just tell you, you will not have a close relationship with God if those things aren't active. I know, I've tried it. So go dive into the richness, seek Him with all your heart. You will find Him. But yeah, there's a cost. There's a cost to relationship, right? Uh, Everything you say yes to means no to saying, or you know what I'm saying. Everything you say yes to means you're saying no to something else, and so you have to pick what's most valuable. And um, I've never regretted paying the cost to keep God my value and walk with Him. So God bless you. Go walk with God.